Once upon a time, in a land filled with magic and wonder, there was a lonely tower hidden deep in an enchanted forest. This tower, covered in twisting ivy and vibrant flowers, held a secret. In it lived a girl with the longest, most beautiful hair the world had ever seen. Her name was Rapunzel. Rapunzel wasn't always in the tower. Her story began in a tiny cottage at the edge of the forest, where a kind couple, who had wished for a child for many years, finally heard the good news that they were going to have a baby. Next to their cottage was a walled garden filled with the most delicious fruits and vegetables. But this garden belonged to a powerful and mysterious enchantress named Zelena. One day, Rapunzel's mother, gazing out of the window, saw the juiciest, most tempting rampion, also known as Rapunzel, growing in Zelena's garden. She craved it so much that she could think of nothing else. Her husband, wanting to make her happy, decided to sneak into the garden to get some for her. But as he was picking the Rapunzel, Zelena caught him.
"You dare steal from my garden?"
Zelena's voice thundered. The poor man trembled with fear.
Please, it's for my wife. She is expecting a child and craves this Rapunzel so much.
He begged. Zelena's expression softened slightly.
"Very well,"
she said.
"You may take as much Rapunzel as you like, but on one condition. When your child is born, she will be mine."
The man, desperate to ease his wife's cravings, agreed without realizing the gravity of his promise. And so, when the baby girl was born, Zelena came to claim her. She named the child Rapunzel, after the plant her mother had craved. Zelena wasn't cruel, but she was very protective. She took Rapunzel to the tower in the enchanted forest to keep her safe from the dangers of the outside world. The tower had no doors or stairs, just a single window at the very top. Zelena would visit Rapunzel every day. She would stand at the base of the tower and call out,
"Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair."
And Rapunzel would drop her long golden hair down for Zelena to climb. As Rapunzel grew, so did her hair. It was as golden as the sun and reached the ground. She spent her days singing, reading books, and painting. She talked to the birds and dreamed of the outside world. One day, a prince was riding through the forest when he heard Rapunzel's beautiful voice singing from the tower. Curious, he followed the sound and discovered the hidden tower. He watched in amazement as Zelena called up to Rapunzel and climbed her hair. The prince decided he must meet this mysterious girl. He returned the next day after Zelena had left and stood beneath the tower. Mimicking Zelena's voice, he called out,
"Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair."
To his delight, a stream of golden hair cascaded down. He climbed up and finally met Rapunzel. She was startled at first, but the prince's kind words and friendly smiles soon won her over. They talked for hours, and Rapunzel was fascinated by his stories of the outside world. The prince and Rapunzel quickly became friends, and he visited her every day. They hatched a plan for her to escape the tower. The prince would bring a piece of silk each time he visited, and Rapunzel would weave it into a ladder. However, their plan was almost foiled when Zelena noticed that Rapunzel was happier than usual. Suspicious, she decided to watch the tower more closely. One evening, as Rapunzel awaited the prince's visit, she said to Zelena,
"It's strange, but when the prince climbs my hair, it feels much lighter than when you do."
Zelena's eyes narrowed.
"A prince, you say?"
She had suspected something, and now she knew. In a fit of anger, she snipped off Rapunzel's magnificent hair and banished her to a desolate land.
"You've betrayed my trust, child,"
Zelena said bitterly. Later that evening, the prince, unaware of the events, called out as usual.
"Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair."
To his horror, he found Zelena waiting for him at the top.
"You've stolen what's most precious to me,"
she hissed, pushing him from the tower. He fell into thorny bushes below, losing his sight. Banished far away, Rapunzel struggled with her new reality.
How could this happen? Where do I go from here?
she pondered aloud, her voice echoing in the emptiness. Meanwhile, the prince, now blind, wandered in search of Rapunzel.
I must find her. Her voice, her laugh, I must hear them again.
In a small village, Rapunzel found solace in singing. Her voice, filled with longing, floated through the air. One day, a familiar voice joined her in song. It was the prince.
Rapunzel!
He called out hesitantly.
Is it really you?
She replied, tears in her eyes. They embraced, and Rapunzel's tears fell on his eyes, miraculously restoring his sight. The prince took Rapunzel back to his kingdom, where they were warmly welcomed. Rapunzel's parents, who had never stopped looking for their daughter, were overjoyed to be reunited with her.
We never lost hope.
Her mother said, embracing her. Zelena, realizing the depth of Rapunzel's love for the prince, felt remorse for her actions. She saw that Rapunzel had grown into a strong, independent woman who no longer needed her protection. Rapunzel and the prince were married in a grand celebration that united not just two people, but two kingdoms. They built a new home, not far from the enchanted forest and the remains of the tower, a symbol of their past and the journey that brought them together. Their life was full of joy and learning. Rapunzel often said,
Every experience, good or bad, is a lesson in disguise.
and so they lived happily ever after, their love and adventures a beacon of hope, proving that courage and love can indeed overcome all odds. The end.